Hello again, friends and strangers. Welcome back to Pam Shenanigans. And today I'm just gonna be talking about my January reads. It's like I'm reading it and the characters are actually there. More terrible things that are gonna happen, so like sign me the fuck up. So I didn't prepare a script for this video. I'm just gonna raw dog this video because it's never gonna happen if I still wait for the motivation for me to just write the script. So I hope this pans out well, but let's get started. For the month of January, I was able to read a total of 9 books. I was able to read 2 5-star reads, and 5 of them were 4-star reads, and the remaining 2 were 4.5-star reads. And I think that just sums up the way that my year is going reading-wise, and it's going good. I started with a 4-star book, and I ended with also a 4-star book, so it's a good reading month for me. The first book that I read for January was Killers of a Certain Age by Deanna Raybourn. This is the book that I gave 4 stars to, and it's a really fun book about this 4 of the deadliest assassins in an elite international organization where they were set to enjoy an all-expenses-paid vacation to mark their retirement. But they have been set up and are being targeted by their own colleagues, their very own organization, and are on their own to figure out what the fuck is going on, who is targeting them. So I gave this book 4 stars. It was a very enjoyable book. It's a suspense thriller, very action-packed book. The chapters of this book were divided into the past, wherein Billy, as in the main character in the POV that we're following, was being recruited, and when she was doing trainings and doing missions with the other 3 sphinxes. And it was divided into also the present, wherein the foursome are already 60-ish years old, and it was 40 years after they've served as assassins / the sphinxes. They were just called sphinxes, but they were part of this organization called the Museum, and the Museum is targeting Nazis and fascists. In short, the Museum was targeting bad people. They were being helped by these assassins to terminate those awful people. This is a kind of book that you don't have to take very seriously, as it also isn't trying to be serious. It was obvious that the author has done her research in espionage and various historical events and general world events concerning, again, the Nazis and the fascists. Ironically and surprisingly, I found this to be like a comfort book for me, since it's kind of refreshing to finally see older badass ladies as master assassins just doing their hot girl shit, killing people, well, bad guys though, all the while they are 60-ish years old. Like, I can't even stand up for like an hour straight without my legs and my spine hurting. I feel like my only qualm about this book is that since it was told from the perspective of just one assassin, which was Billy, it didn't provide that much more depth on this very interesting other characters, as in the other 3 assassins had like really expansive, supposedly expansive history before they became assassins, but that wasn't dived into, more of like just thrown as like a paragraph to describe where this ladies came from, instead of like reading that chapter from the perspective of these ladies. So I think I could have liked this more, or even gave this 5 stars if the author was able to like highlight their varying personalities by having multiple POVs. This played out like a suspense movie, and I'm here for it. I actually recommend this to people who are looking into more action-packed suspense thrillers. The next book I read is a graphic novel called I Think Our Son is Gay. This is the first volume. It's written by Okura. I gave this 5 stars. It's such a heartwarming and just a very wholesome read to really start and jumpstart my January. I think Our Son is Gay chronicles the everyday life of the Aoyama family. This is told from the POV of the mom, who seems to be writing to her husband, mostly about their son, who most likely is gay, but a closeted one too. This is such a heartwarming and funny manga about a teenage boy who isn't that good at keeping how gay he is. It's just super obvious, but it's refreshing to like read a queer book that isn't hinged on trauma and just good vibes. I'm not discounting books that deal with that because it happens in real life. I just happen to really like this one because it's refreshing and it's super heartwarming. What's so heartwarming about this book is that it's really carried by the mom, Tomoko, who is so supportive and understanding of her son's situation without being pushy at all. I love that she tries very hard to understand her son without prejudice. Just very understanding, and like there are things that could be confusing for her, but she tries to find it out without being intrusive. You could just really feel how much the mom loves her son, and it's something that inspires me, and it's something that I aspire to be as a mom in the future. This series also tackles homophobia and internalized homophobia. The son obviously has internalized homophobia, even though the mom is super understanding, super accepting. It's like whenever he shows something that is gay, or whenever he says something that could imply that he's gay, he would just try to be so obvious about it, like just backpedal and like regret ever saying that, but he would be like, oh, I didn't say boyfriend, I actually said girlfriend, I'm gonna have a girlfriend, ha 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 ha. So obviously that's internalized homophobia, and while the dad acknowledges the existence of gay people, the dad still feels grossed out about the idea of two men kissing, but it's not done in this like very in your face, like, oh, that's fucking gross. It still gets to the parts where the mom would try to save the situation, wherein, oh, I actually have watched or read something about two gay men, blah, 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 blah. But the dad would be like, oh, okay. So it's just still lighthearted. Like, even though it deals with heavy topics, it's still dealt in like this way wherein you want things to be dealt with in real life. Just having decent and civil conversations about being queer. I will definitely continue reading this manga series, and I definitely did. I read the second volume for the month of January, and I will recommend this book to people who are looking for a lighthearted read about love and family and being queer. So before I read the second volume, I read the first book in the Mindfuck series, which is The Risk by S.D. Abbey. I gave this book 4 stars. So this book is about a killer who is out for revenge on the man that ruined her and her brother when they were younger, but unpredictably gets together with an FBI agent, the very agent investigating the serial killer's case. I found this series first from Kat, and I was extremely curious because she really loved it, and like she read the series straight. And for me, that's a testament of like loving a book so much that you just sit through and read everything. If I saw this book on my timeline, if ever I was just browsing and I see the book cover, I really wouldn't bat an eye. This is the kind of book that you would say, do not judge a book by its cover. I wish the book covers were better, but the content itself, the book itself is actually really good. Like, I really liked it. I liked the writing. I liked how fast-paced and how anxiety-inducing it is in a good way. The premise itself sounded right up my alley. It's the kind of fucked up that I definitely would seek in a book, it was surprisingly very addictive. I also read the 2 sequels to the series within this month. Although, granted that her book, it's pretty short, like not even over 100 pages or not even over 150 pages. It also has such a cliffhanger towards the end that you wouldn't really have a choice but to immediately start the next one. Like, this first book was steamy and it was written well. The romance was believable, even though it's, love at first sight-ish. It's kind of believable. And I would recommend this to people who are looking for a fast-paced, short, steamy, and actually well-written romance. So, if you haven't read this book, please consider picking it up. As mentioned, the 4th book that I read is Sidetracked, which is the 2nd book on the Mindfuck series by S.D. Abbey. I also gave this book 4 stars. If someone is jumping in on the series thinking that it's going to be super heavy on the romance part, they might be disappointed. Don't get me wrong, this serial killer and FBI agent couple is hot. But this is more on the action-packed side that deals heavy blows on issues like rape and pedophilia. So it plays out like a mystery drama rather than a fast-paced thriller. I will say that the first book had more romance on it. That's why I mentioned that if that's also what you're going to be expecting on the 2nd book, you're going to be disappointed, because this one is more on the action side of things and just excavating the history of why the serial killer is actually hunting these men down. The 2nd book continues to be told in the perspective of both the FBI agent and the serial killer, which makes things extra interesting and extra spicy because we get to be on both of their heads. I especially like the parts about women helping each other in hopes of finding justice in their own ways, however that is defined. I was definitely compelled to read the whole thing, and that's also what I did. This ended in such a cliffhanger that you have no choice again but to continue reading the series, so I still recommend this book. The 5th book I read is the 2nd volume of I Think Our Son Is Gay. It continues to be wholesome and lighthearted. I still freaking loved it. I gave this 5 stars. Actually, I Think Our Son Is Gay series are the only books that I've read that I gave 5 stars to this month. It's perfect. It's wholesome. I loved it so much. The characters had depth in them, even though the focus are mostly on the mom and the son. There were hints and there were like mentions of the little brother and the dad and the guy that the son has a crush on, but the focus is mostly on the mom dealing with the everyday life of being with a potentially gay son. Again, it's perfect. I loved it so much. Definitely gonna recommend. Then the next book I read is Making a Scene by Constance Wu. I haven't written a review for this yet, so my thoughts will definitely gonna be scattered. According to Goodreads, this is a powerful and poignant new book by Crazy Rich Asians and fresh off the boat star Constance Wu about family, romance, sex, shame, trauma, and how she finds her voice on the stage. And that is basically it. Constance Wu was the one who narrated the audiobook, which added to the experience. Constance Wu talks about very serious stuff in this memoir, but with hints of comedy in it. So I guess, I don't know if it's just me like looking into it too much, but I guess it's also her way of not exaggerating what happened to her, because looking at making a scene as a book, it mentions and dives into things like, as an Asian American, as in her experience of like dealing with trauma, dealing with heartaches, dealing with disappointments where she felt like she may be overreacting, she would feel like, okay, I don't need to make a scene. I am raised to like deal with this civilly, etc., etc. So she would feel apologetic about feeling these things, and which is normal. Like, it's normal to feel those things, but to be apologetic about it isn't right. Because like, as humans, we are entitled to feeling things, and we may hurt people as a result, which makes it not okay. But again, it's okay to feel those things. I have highlighted the shit out of this book. There were so many powerful and hard-hitting lines. This was relatable to me as an Asian. Also, as a firstborn, there are a lot of times where I have to keep my thoughts to myself and like pin down my feelings because like a lot of things are expected of me. So I relate to Constance on that very sense. I haven't really watched Fresh Off the Boat. I've only watched Crazy Rich Asians wherein she's also there, but I didn't also know the issue previously on Twitter when she posted about like being disappointed about Fresh Off the Boat being renewed for another season, but that was also talked about on her memoir, like why she felt that way, and it's also because of the abuse that she got from the producer, who was kind of like grooming her, trying to control her. It also made me think about like the things that we see on the internet isn't everything. Like, someone could be like saying fuck you as a post, but reading just that without context, you may be offended, or you might judge the person and be like, why the fuck is this person saying fuck you? But it doesn't tell the whole story. And while I'm not solely trusting Constance's recollection of what happened, I'm not discounting her experience. I'm saying more of like, okay, this is her experience and this is how she's going to say it, so I'm looking at it through her lens and how she's going to be interpreting that. It's not always that we know the story behind the post, behind the message, behind this person's actions, but compassion goes a long way. And that's one of the things that I took from this book. I was quite surprised with how good this was written. Like, Constance is a very eloquent writer. This is also one of the best nonfiction books that I've read. Very well written. A lot of times I was blown away by how accurate and how relatable a phrase was. I highly recommend this memoir. It's really good. It provides depth on the Asian American experience and how it is tied up with success and failure. The next two books that I read were Blood on the Tracks Volume 1 and 2 by Suzo Oshimi. I gave Volume 1 4 stars and I gave Volume 2 4.5 stars. So Blood on the Tracks is kind of hard to explain because all I want to say about this book is that it's extremely fucked up, but I'm gonna read the Goodreads blurb. Seiichi's mother loves him very much and his days pass with placid regularity. School, friends, even the attention of his attractive classmate Fukishi. Until one terrible summer day that all changes. Okay, I just want to say that the art of this book is phenomenal. It's fucking amazing. Like, it added to the eeriness of the whole vibe of the book. At first, it would like just give you context on like the mother and son relationship of the characters, what they do every day and whatever, but there were times where the pages would just be like super closed up on the faces, and the emotions were very obvious. It creeped me out. It creeped me out at times, like a lot of times actually. It felt too realistic for me. It's also well written, but the way that it was partnered with this very horrific, horrific at times art, it added to the experience. It's really good. It ended with like the terrible accident that happened towards the end, and then it continues to volume 2, wherein the aftermath of that accident during summer was shown. So it just feels intrusive for me, like intrusive in a way that it's like I'm reading it and the characters are actually there, and I feel like I'm intruding. But it just felt so palpable. Like the reading experience was like horrible in a good way. The mother and son relationship isn't normal, and there's definitely abuse that's going on. So that's also a warning out there. If you are planning to read Blood on the Tracks, it's not lighthearted at all. It's the absolute contrast to when I read I Think Our Son is Gay. This one is the total opposite. Like this is so messed up. But I am compelled though. So I'm definitely gonna read volumes 3 onwards, because I'm very curious as to what else would happen. Like, this terrible thing already happened, and there are more terrible things that are gonna happen, so like, sign me the fuck up. The last book that I read for January was Scarlet Angel, which is the 3rd book in the Mindfuck series, again by S.D. Abbey. This book is even more fast-paced. Like, since we're in the POV of the FBI agent, we're seeing him and his teammates try to solve the case. But on the other hand, we also get POVs again of the actual serial killer that they're trying to find. And the plot is so thick. You would think that how is such a short book able to pack so much action, able to pack so much context on like 2 of the main characters, especially like the serial killer. So in this book, we get more insight on what happened to her and her brother in the past and why she is getting their revenge. All the while, the FBI is getting closer and closer to finding out who the killer is. So it's super anxiety inducing, because I'm like, okay, there are like 2 ways this could go. It's either the FBI would never find out and the serial killer, our main character, would be able to exact their revenge to the end, or the other way, wherein she might be found out. And honestly, I want to go that route. Like, if ever the boyfriend, the FBI boyfriend finds out, I just want to know the aftermath. Like, are they going to be together? Like, is this going to be like a money heist kind of thing where the professor and the, what do you call this? The professor and, I think that's a spoiler though. Professor and whoever is trying to catch him in money heist actually have some, you know, like relationship. So sorry for the spoiler, but money heist has been around for like quite a long time. Anyway, so I wanted to go that route because it's extra spicy. It adds like more drama to this series. So there's just 2 more books left, and Kat says that books 4 and 5 is actually even more fucked up. So I'm like, okay. And the way that Scarlet Angel ended, it's definitely gonna get more fucked up. So I'm like, fuck, the series is so good. It actually has so much substance for a dark romance book that is this short. So definitely gonna recommend, but to people who are looking for very specific recommendations. That's it for my January reads. Again, I read a total of 9 books, which is a great start to my year because I only set my Goodreads goal to like 12 books, like average of 1 book a month, just to not put any pressure on me, but this month I actually picked up really good books, which, you know, just continued throughout the month. That just motivated me to read more. And that's it, friends and strangers. I hope you had a good reading month as well, and I wish that you still do for February and the rest of the year. I wish that for myself as well. But if you are curious, or if you have read any of the books that I've read for January, let's talk about it in the comment section below. And if you haven't yet, do subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you again on my next video. Bye bye.